At 1 a.m., my daughter collapsed at my door. Part 1. The knock that changed everything. The sound cut through the silence like a gunshot. 3 sharp raps on my front door. Then nothing. Then 3 more. Weaker this time. Desperate. Like someone whose strength was nearly gone. 1:07 a.m. The digital clock on my nightstand glowed accusingly in the darkness. 23 years on the police force taught me to trust my instincts. And every instinct I had was screaming that something was wrong. I didn't grab my robe. I didn't turn on lights. I moved through my house the way I'd moved through 100 domestic disturbance calls. Quickly, quietly, prepared for anything. Except this. When I opened the door, my daughter Rachel collapsed into my arms. "Mom?" she whispered, and the word came out broken, shattered into syllables that didn't fit together anymore. Her face. God, her face. The left side was swollen, a grotesque mask of purple and red that was already darkening to black. Her lip was split, still bleeding. One eye was nearly swollen shut. But it was her other eye, the open one, that destroyed me. It held a look I'd seen 1,000 times in my career, on 1,000 different faces. The look of someone whose world had just ended. I'd been a police sergeant for over 2 decades. I'd worked robbery, narcotics, vice. But the calls that haunted me, the ones that woke me at 3 in the morning, were always the domestic violence cases. The woman with cigarette burns on her arms who insisted she was clumsy with the stove. The man who'd beaten his wife unconscious and then called 911 saying she'd fallen down the stairs. The children who watched from doorways, silent witnesses to their mother's suffering. I'd seen it all. I thought I'd become immune to it, developed the thick skin you need to survive in law enforcement. But nothing prepares you for the moment when it's your own daughter standing at your door with her face beaten and her spirit broken. "Rachel." My voice came out steady. "Training. Always the training. What happened?" She tried to speak, but only a sob escaped. I pulled her inside, locked the door, deadbolt, chain, everything, and guided her to the couch. My hands were gentle, but my mind was already working, cataloging injuries, assessing threat levels, planning next steps. The blood on her shirt was still wet, fresh. This had happened recently, within the last hour. Her right hand was trembling uncontrollably. Shock, probably. Her breathing was shallow, rapid. Panic response. I needed to slow her down, ground her, before I could get any useful information. "Is he outside? Is he following you?" She shook her head, then nodded, then shook it again, confusion clouding her features. I don't know. I just ran. I got in my car and I drove and Her voice broke completely. "Mom, he hit me. Marcus hit me." Marcus. My son-in-law. The man who'd stood in a church 4 years ago and promised to love, honor, and cherish my daughter. The man who'd called me Mum with that charming smile of his. The man I walked my daughter down the aisle to marry, believing I was handing her to someone who would protect her, care for her, build a life with her. The man who'd just proven every one of those beliefs was a lie. I kept my face neutral, but inside, rage was building. The kind of cold, calculated rage that I'd learned to harness during my years on the force. The kind that didn't explode, but instead focused, sharpened, became a tool for justice. "Tell me everything," I said. "Start from the beginning." But Rachel wasn't looking at me anymore. She was staring at her hands, trembling in her lap. Blood had dried under her nails. Her own blood, I realized, from touching her face probably, checking the damage, trying to understand what had just happened to her. "He said," her voice was barely above a whisper, "he said if I told anyone I'd lose everything, the house, our savings. He'd make sure I never saw Lily again." Lily. My granddaughter. 5 years old, with Rachel's dark curls and Marcus's dimples. My heart dropped into my stomach. Where is Lily now? I kept my voice level, but my heart was hammering. At home, asleep. I waited until she was asleep. I couldn't. Rachel's breathing was coming faster now, panic setting in. I couldn't let her see. I couldn't let her know that her father, that he... Breathe, Rachel. Look at me. Breathe. She did. In through the nose, out through the mouth. I taught her this when she was 16 and having panic attacks before exams. Now I was teaching her how to breathe through trauma, how to function when your entire world had just imploded. Good, I said. Now tell me, what happened tonight? Rachel closed her eyes. When she spoke, her voice was hollow, distant, like she was reading from a script she'd never wanted to memorize. She was watching herself from somewhere far away, describing events that had happened to someone else. His phone rang at dinner. He looked at it and his whole face changed. He said he had to take it, went into his office. I could hear him through the door. His voice was different, soft, gentle, the way he used to talk to me. She laughed bitterly, a sound that had no humor in it. I knocked, asked who it was. He came out and said it was work, but I knew. God, Mom, I knew. Knew what? That there was someone else. I've known for months. The late nights, the sudden business trips, the way he looks through me like I'm not even there anymore. I'm a piece of furniture he's tired of. But I didn't say anything because I thought, I don't know what I thought. That it would pass, that he'd come back to me, that if I just tried harder, was better, was enough, he'd love me again. She opened her eyes and they were filled with a rage I'd never seen in my gentle daughter. Tonight, I asked him, just asked him straight out, "Are you having an affair?" What did he say? He said yes, just like that. Yes. It was nothing, like our marriage was nothing, like the vows we made and the life we built together and the daughter we created together, none of it mattered. And I started crying. I asked him how long, who was she, why, all the stupid questions that don't matter because the answer is always the same. He stopped loving me and started loving someone else. I waited. There was more. There had to be more to explain the bruises, the split lip, the terror in her eyes. Rachel was building up to something, working through the story chronologically because that was the only way she could tell it without falling apart completely. Then I asked him if he was going to end it, if he wanted to work on our marriage, if there was any chance we could fix this. Rachel's hands clenched into fists. He laughed, Mom. He actually laughed and said, "Why would I end it? Jennifer gives me everything you stopped giving me years ago." Jennifer. Now the other woman had a name, had an identity, was real. I lost it, Rachel continued. I threw my wine glass at him. It missed, shattered against the wall, red wine everywhere, like blood. And he just changed. His face went cold, not angry, cold, like a switch had flipped and the man I married disappeared and someone else took his place. He walked toward me and I backed up, but there was nowhere to go, and he grabbed my arm. She pulled up her sleeve. 5 perfect bruises, finger-shaped, dark purple against her pale skin. He said, "You don't get to make a scene. You don't get to tell me what to do. You're going to shut your mouth and smile and play the perfect wife, or you're going to lose everything." Did he hit you then? No. I pulled away, ran upstairs, locked myself in our bedroom, but he followed me, started pounding on the door, shouting that I was being dramatic, that I was ruining everything I always do, that I was embarrassing him, that I was crazy. She was shaking now, the memory overwhelming her. I told him I wanted a divorce, that I was done, that I didn't care about Jennifer or his affair or any of it. I just wanted out. Rachel's breathing was ragged now, her words coming faster, tumbling over each other in a rush to get this story out before she lost her nerve. He broke the door, Mom, just kicked it in like it was nothing. It was made of paper. And he grabbed me, and he said, "You're not leaving me. You're not taking Lily. You're not taking anything. Because if you try, I will destroy you. I have friends, I have lawyers, I have money. I will make sure everyone knows what kind of mother you really are. I'll tell them you're unstable, that you drink, that you're a danger to our daughter, and they'll believe me, Rachel, because I'm Marcus Brennan, and you're nobody." The name hit me like a physical blow. Marcus Brennan. Of the Connecticut Brennans. Old money, old connections, old power. His father was a state senator. His uncle sat on the bench in Superior Court. His family owned half the commercial real estate in the county. He was right. He did have friends. He did have lawyers. He did have power. But so did I. And then, I prompted gently. Then I screamed at him, called him every name I could think of, told him he was pathetic, that Jennifer was probably using him just like he was using me, that he was a coward and a liar, and I hated him. She looked at me and her voice dropped to a whisper. He backhanded me across the face. Just once, but it was so hard, I fell, hit the nightstand. That's when I knew. Knew what? That if I stayed, he would kill me. Rachel said it with absolute certainty. Maybe not tonight, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually. Because the man I married is gone, and the man standing in our bedroom, that wasn't Marcus. That was a stranger. A dangerous stranger. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. At the bruises blooming across her skin like poisonous flowers. At the blood on her shirt, dried now into dark stains that would never fully wash out. At the way she held herself, small and broken, curled into the corner of my couch like she was trying to take up as little space as possible, trying to be invisible, trying not to be a target. I'd seen this posture before, on dozens of women, hundreds maybe. The body language of abuse, of trauma, of someone who'd learned that being small and quiet might keep them safe. And I made a decision. Here's what's going to happen, I said, my voice calm and cold, the voice I'd used in interrogation rooms, in courtrooms, in moments when emotions had no place and only action mattered. First, we're going to document every injury, photos from every angle with proper lighting. Then we're driving to the hospital. You're going to get examined, and they're going to write a report detailing every injury. Then we're filing a police report with my old partner, Margaret, who works domestic violence cases now. Then we're getting an emergency protective order filed first thing Monday morning. And then we're going to destroy him. Mom, he said, I don't care what he said. I cut her off, my voice sharp. Rachel, listen to me. I spent 2 decades dealing with men like Marcus, men who think they can terrorize their wives into silence, men who use threats and violence and fear as weapons, men who believe their money and their connections put them above the law. And you know what happens to the women who stay quiet, who believe the threats, who try to handle it on their own? She shook her head. They end up dead, I said bluntly, or hospitalized, or so broken that they can't remember who they were before. I have seen it happen dozens of times. I have stood in living rooms and taken statements from children who found their mothers' bodies. I have notified families that their daughters, their sisters, their friends are never coming home. I have testified at trials where we tried to get justice after it was too late to provide protection. And I will be damned. I will be goddamned if I let that happen to my daughter. Rachel was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face, cutting tracks through the dried blood on her cheeks. What about Lily? If we report him, if we fight him, he'll use her against me. He'll say I'm an unfit mother. We're going to protect Lily, but we're going to do it the right way. Not his way, not by cowering and hiding and hoping he doesn't hurt you again, not by playing his game by his rules. We're going to use the law. We're going to use the system. We're going to document everything, build an airtight case, and make sure that he never, never touches you again. He has money, Mom. Good lawyers. His family has connections. The Brennans own this town. I have something better than money. I leaned forward, took her hands in mine. They were ice cold, still trembling. I have evidence. I have documentation. I have 23 years of knowing exactly how the system works and how to make it work for us. I have contacts in every department, every courthouse, every agency that matters. And I have you, alive, safe, willing to tell the truth. That's all we need. What if it's not enough? Then we fight harder. We appeal.
We don't stop fighting until you and Lily are safe. That's not negotiable, Rachel. Your safety is not negotiable. I stood up, pulled out my phone. I'm calling Margaret now, then the hospital, then my lawyer. We're not waiting until morning. We're not giving him time to prepare his defense or spin his story or intimidate you into silence. We're moving now, tonight, while the evidence is fresh and the injuries are visible and your resolve is strong.
Rachel nodded slowly. I could see her gathering herself, pulling together the broken pieces, finding some core of strength she didn't know she possessed. She said, "Let's do it." Part 2. Building the case. By 3 a.m., I had 47 photographs on my phone. Rachel's face from every angle, the finger-shaped bruises on her upper arms where Marcus had grabbed her, the scrape on her shoulder from hitting the nightstand, the split lip, the swollen eye, the bloody nose that had finally stopped bleeding. Close-ups and wide shots, with flash and without, under different lighting to capture the full extent of the damage. I'd photographed crime scenes for years. I knew what prosecutors needed, what defense attorneys would challenge, what judges wanted to see. These photos were perfect, undeniable, the kind of evidence that would make Marcus's expensive lawyers sweat. "One more," I said, adjusting the lamp to eliminate shadows. "Turn your head to the left." Rachel obeyed mechanically. She'd stopped crying. Now she just sat there, letting me document her husband's violence with the same patient resignation she'd once shown during childhood doctor visits. Numb, disconnected, already dissociating from the trauma as a survival mechanism. I'd seen this before too, the 1,000-yard stare, the compliance, the shutting down of emotions because feeling everything all at once would be unbearable. I said finally, "Get dressed, we're going to the hospital." It's the middle of the night. Emergency rooms don't close, and we need medical documentation while the injuries are fresh. I pulled out clothes I'd gathered from her old bedroom, a loose sweatshirt, soft pants, nothing that would press against her injuries or require complicated movement. "Put these on, I'll make some calls." While Rachel changed, I was already dialing. First call, Margaret Hayes, my former partner, now a detective in the domestic violence unit. We'd worked hundreds of cases together. She knew how I operated. She trusted my judgment. "Susan?" Margaret's voice was thick with sleep, but sharpening quickly. Good cops never fully sleep. "What's wrong?" "Rachel showed up at my door an hour ago. Marcus beat her." I heard Margaret sit up, sudden and alert. Jesus Christ. "How bad?" "Bad enough. Split lip, black eye, finger bruises on her arms. She's shaken but coherent. We're heading to Mercy General now. I need you to meet us there. We're filing a report tonight." I'm already getting dressed. "Susan, is Lily safe?" "She's at their house, asleep. Marcus doesn't know Rachel left yet. We need to get her out of there." "I know, but we can't just take her without going through proper channels. Marcus's family has too many connections. If we make one procedural mistake, they'll use it against us." Fuck. Margaret's frustration bled through the phone. "I'll call Children's Services, see if we can get an emergency welfare check approved. In the meantime, we document everything. Build this case so tight his Tansy lawyers won't be able to breathe." That's the plan. Next call, Patricia Chen, my lawyer. I'd kept her on retainer since I retired. A good attorney was worth her weight in gold, and Patricia was one of the best family law practitioners in the state. She'd cut her teeth as a prosecutor before switching to defense work, which meant she knew both sides of the courtroom intimately. She answered on the second ring. Patricia never fully slept either. "Susan, it's 3 a.m. Someone better be dying. Rachel, Marcus assaulted her tonight. We need an emergency protective order filed first thing Monday morning." All traces of sleep vanished from Patricia's voice. "Tell me you have evidence. 47 photographs, medical documentation pending, police report pending, and Rachel's testimony." "Against Marcus Brennan, the senator's son?" "Yes." Patricia was quiet for a moment. "This is going to be ugly. The Brennan family doesn't lose. They'll come after Rachel with everything they have. Let them try. We're ready." "I hope so. Email me the photos and a written statement. I'll have protective order paperwork drafted by Sunday night. We'll file Monday morning first thing." Judge Morrison usually handles emergency domestic violence cases. She's fair but tough. She won't be impressed by the Brennan name. Good. That's what we need. Susan, this is going to get worse before it gets better. You know that, right? Marcus won't just accept a protective order. His family will hire the best defense attorneys in the state. They'll try to discredit Rachel, claim she's lying, suggest she injured herself. They'll drag her through the mud. I know. And you're still doing this. She's my daughter. What the hell else would I do? Patricia's voice softened. Just making sure you know what you're getting into. I'll start preparing our counterattack. Send me everything you have. Last call, my son David, Rachel's younger brother. He answered on the first ring. He was still young enough to keep his phone next to his bed, checking it compulsively even in the middle of the night. Mom, what's wrong? Rachel's here. Marcus hit her. I need you to do something for me. What? David's voice had gone hard. He'd always been protective of his sister, even when they were kids fighting over toys and TV channels. What do you need? I need you to go to their house. Don't confront Marcus. Don't even let him see you. Just observe. See if he's there, if the lights are on, if anything seems off. I need to know what he's doing, what his state of mind is. And David, be careful. We don't know what he's capable of. He's capable of hitting my sister. That's all I need to know. I'm already getting dressed. I'll text you what I find. Thank you. And David, don't do anything stupid. We're handling this legally. That means we need to stay clean, stay smart, and not give them any ammunition to use against us. I know, Mom, I know. But if I get the chance, David. Fine. Legal, smart, got it. But after it's over, after he's convicted and sentenced and served his time, all bets are off. I didn't argue with him. Some things a mother knew better than to fight. By 3:30 a.m., we were in my car, driving through empty streets toward Mercy General. Rachel sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window at nothing. The city looked different at this hour. Quieter, darker, more honest somehow. Daytime hid things. Nighttime revealed them. He's going to be so angry, she said quietly. Yes, he is. He's going to deny everything. Say I'm lying, that I fell, or that I attacked him first and he was defending himself. His lawyers will... Rachel, I kept my eyes on the road, hands steady on the wheel. That's what they all say. Every single one. She's lying, she's crazy, she attacked me first, she fell down the stairs, she's turning my kids against me. I've heard every excuse, every justification, every denial in the book. And you know what? It doesn't matter. Because we have evidence. We have your injuries documented from multiple angles. We'll have medical records, police reports, expert testimony. His words against facts. And facts always win. What if the judge doesn't believe me? Then we appeal. We fight. We keep fighting until someone listens, until someone sees the truth, until you and Lily are safe. I glanced at her. I need you to understand something, Rachel. This is going to be hard, exhausting. There will be days when you want to give up, when the fight seems too difficult, when accepting his demands seems easier than continuing the battle. But if you give in, if you let him win through intimidation and threats, you're teaching Lily that this is acceptable, that this is love. Do you want that? No. God, no. Then we fight, and we don't stop fighting until we win. The emergency room at Mercy General was relatively quiet. Just a few people scattered across the waiting area. A man holding a bloody towel to his hand, a young mother with a feverish toddler, an elderly woman in a wheelchair wheezing. The usual 3 a.m. crowd. I walked Rachel to the registration desk, where a tired-looking nurse glanced up from her computer. Her name tag said Kelly Wright, and she had the weathered look of someone who'd worked too many overnight shifts. Can I help you? My daughter needs to be seen. Domestic violence assault. The nurse's expression changed immediately, went from routine boredom to focused attention. She'd seen this before, handled these cases, knew the protocols. Come with me. They took us back right away, bypassing the waiting room entirely. Emergency rooms had special procedures for domestic violence victims.
Private rooms, special documentation, immediate care. Too many women had died in waiting rooms before, their abusers tracking them down, finishing what they'd started. Kelly led us to a private exam room at the end of a quiet hallway. The doctor will be in shortly. She'll do a full examination and document everything. Have the police been notified? Detective Margaret Hayes is on her way, I said. Good. Kelly's voice was warm with approval. She'd probably seen too many women who refused to report, who made excuses, who went back to their abusers. You're doing the right thing, both of you. After Kelly left, Rachel looked at me with something like panic in her eyes. Was it the right thing? Coming here? Reporting him? Destroying our family? What if I'm overreacting? What if he didn't mean... What if tomorrow he's sorry and... Rachel. I cut her off, sharply, more harshly than I'd intended. But she needed to hear this, needed to understand before the doubt and guilt set in too deeply. Stop. Listen to yourself. You're making excuses for a man who hit you hard enough to split your lip and blacken your eye. You're calling it overreacting to report a crime. This is what abuse does. It rewires your brain. It makes you doubt reality. It makes you think violence is somehow your fault. It makes you minimize and justify and rationalize until you can't see clearly anymore. I pulled out my phone, opened the photos I had taken. Look. Look at your face. Does this look like overreacting? Does this look like lies? Rachel stared at the images, her breath cut. I look hurt. You look hurt because you were hurt, and that's not okay. It's not acceptable. It's not something you caused or deserved or can fix by being better. But Lily, I need Lily to have a mother who's alive and safe, not a mother who stays with a violent man because she's afraid to leave. You're modeling for Lily what she should accept in her own relationship someday. Do you want her to think this is normal? That this is love? That when someone hurts you, you stay quiet and make excuses? Rachel's face crumpled. No. God, no. I don't want that for her. I don't want her to ever... She couldn't finish. Then we fight. For her, for you, for every woman who didn't have the chance to get out. The doctor arrived 15 minutes later. Dr. Sarah Kim, mid-40s, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and efficient hands that moved with practiced competence. She examined Rachel thoroughly, taking even more photographs with a professional camera, noting every injury in precise medical terminology. Periorbital hematoma consistent with blunt force trauma to the left orbital region. Laceration of the lower lip, approximately 2 centimeters in length. Contusions on bilateral upper arms in a pattern consistent with forceful gripping by an adult hand. Abrasion on the right scapula, likely sustained in a fall. The clinical language made it real, made it official, made it undeniable. This wasn't a domestic spat or a misunderstanding or a woman overreacting. This was assault, battery, a crime with a victim and a perpetrator, and evidence that could hold up in any court in the country. While Dr. Kim worked, Margaret arrived. She knocked once on the exam room door, then entered with her detective's badge visible on her belt. Margaret was in her late 40s, black, with gray starting to thread through her short natural hair. She'd been my partner for 6 years before I retired, and I'd trust her with my life. Now I was trusting her with my daughter's life. Rachel, she said gently, crossing the room to take Rachel's hand. I'm so sorry this happened to you. Rachel just nodded, too exhausted for words. Margaret pulled out her notepad, not a digital device, but an actual paper notebook. Some habits from the old days never died. I know you're tired and you've told this story already, but I need to get your statement while everything's still fresh in your mind. Can you tell me what happened tonight?
And Rachel told the story again, every detail. The phone call, the confrontation, the wine glass, the threats, the broken door, the punch. Margaret listened, asked clarifying questions, wrote everything down in her precise, careful handwriting. Did anyone else witness the assault? No. Lily was asleep upstairs. It was just us. Has he ever been physical with you before? Pushed you, grabbed you, blocked your exit? Rachel hesitated. I could see her thinking, remembering, piecing together a pattern she'd been ignoring for months, maybe years. He's punched walls before, thrown things, broken dishes. Once he grabbed my wrist so hard it left marks, but he said he was just trying to keep me from leaving during an argument. He said I was being hysterical, that he was helping me calm down. Margaret's jaw tightened. She'd heard this before, too. What about verbal abuse? Threats? Controlling behavior? He controls all our money. Says I'm bad with finances, that I spend too much, that I need to ask permission before making purchases over $100. He checks my phone sometimes, asks where I've been, who I've talked to. If I don't answer his calls right away, he gets angry, says I'm disrespecting him, that I'm a bad wife. Rachel's voice was getting smaller, quieter, as she cataloged all the ways Marcus had controlled and diminished her. He doesn't like my friends, says they're immature, that they give me bad advice. We stopped going to social events with them months ago. And my family, he says you don't respect him, Mom, that you think he's not good enough for me. So we've been seeing you less and less, and I thought it was just normal married life, but now I'm realizing that it wasn't normal. Margaret finished softly. That it was isolation, control. Classic abusive patterns designed to cut you off from your support system and make you dependent on him. Rachel looked stricken. How did I not see it? How did I let this happen? Because abusers are good at hiding what they are. Because they don't start with violence. They start with little things, controlling things, things that seem like love or concern or protection until you're so deep in the pattern that you can't see your way out. Margaret closed her notebook. Rachel, I'm going to get a warrant for Marcus's arrest tonight. Domestic battery, coercion, and terroristic threatening. He'll be in custody by morning. No! Rachel's eyes went wide with panic. You can't, he'll know I told. He won't be able to get near you, Margaret said firmly. We're getting you an emergency protective order. He'll be ordered to stay at least 500 feet away from you, from this hospital, from your mother's house. If he violates it, he goes straight back to jail. No bail, no excuses. But our house, Lily, you'll get a police escort to collect your belongings when he's not present. As for Lily, I've already called Children's Services. They're sending someone to the house now to check on her welfare. If she's safe and asleep, they'll leave her undisturbed until morning. Then we'll arrange for you to pick her up with an officer present. My phone buzzed. Text from David. At the house. Lights are on downstairs. His car's in the driveway. Should I stay? I typed back, no. Leave now. Don't engage. Just confirm he's there. He's there. I can see him through the window, pacing. Looks agitated. Mom, I want to. Don't. Go home. I'll call you later. Fine. But this isn't over. I looked up at Margaret. Marcus is at the house. Awake. David says he looks agitated. Good information. I'll include that in my report. Consciousness of guilt. He's not sleeping because he knows what he did. She stood. I'll call in the warrant now. Patrol officers will pick him up within the hour. Will they tell him I'm here? Rachel asked fearfully. No. Standard procedure is to arrest first, explain later. He won't know where you are until his lawyer gets involved, and by then you'll be somewhere safe. Margaret squeezed Rachel's shoulder. Rachel, you did the right thing, Rachel. The brave thing, and we're going to make sure you're protected. After Margaret left, Dr. Kim finished her examination. You're going to be very sore for the next few days. I'm giving you pain medication and anti-inflammatories. Ice the swelling for 20 minutes every hour. Come back if you experience dizziness, nausea, blurred vision, or any changes in consciousness. Those could indicate a concussion. Thank you, Rachel whispered. Dr. Kim's voice was gentle but firm. Rachel, this isn't your fault. Nothing you said or did gave him the right to put his hands on you. Not the wine glass, not the confrontation, not anything. He chose to use violence. That's on him, not you. Remember that. By 5:30 a.m., we were done at the hospital. Rachel had a manila envelope full of medical records, prescriptions, discharge instructions, and Dr. Kim's detailed report documenting
every injury. Margaret had her statement, her photos, her warrant. The evidence was mounting. The case was building. The wheels of justice were turning. But I wasn't done yet. "One more stop," I told Rachel as we got in the car. "Where?" "My storage unit." Rachel looked questioningly but didn't ask. She was too tired, too overwhelmed to question anything at this point. I drove across town to the U-Storage facility where I kept my personal archives. Unlocked Unit 247, pulled up the rolling door. Inside were boxes. Lots of boxes. Files I'd kept from my years on the force. Not official records, but my own copies. Notes I'd made. Observations I'd recorded over 2 decades of responding to domestic violence calls. "What is this?" Rachel asked, staring at the stacks. "Insurance. Ammunition. Proof that what happened to you tonight fits a pattern we're going to establish in court. We're not just filing a police report and hoping for the best. We're building a case, a narrative, a story that's so airtight, so well documented, so professionally presented that Marcus and his expensive lawyers won't be able to poke a single hole in it." I pulled out a specific box, one I'd labeled years ago during a training seminar: domestic violence, patterns, tactics, and legal strategies. Inside were articles I'd collected from psychology journals, legal precedents from landmark cases, documentation of every manipulation tactic abusive partners use to maintain control. We're going to show that Marcus's behavior follows a textbook pattern: the isolation, the financial control, the phone monitoring, the threats, the escalation to physical violence. Every single thing he did is documented in research, and we're going to use that research to prove that what happened to you wasn't random, wasn't your fault, and wasn't an isolated incident. It was the inevitable result of an abusive dynamic that's been building for years. I pulled out folders, started explaining their contents. This one documents how abusers isolate their victims from support systems. Did Marcus do that?
Rachel thought, then nodded slowly. "He didn't like it when I went out with my friends. Said they were a bad influence, that they didn't understand our marriage. Eventually, it was just easier not to see them than to deal with his sulking afterward. Financial control? All our accounts are in his name. He gives me an allowance, calls it a household budget, but I have to justify every purchase. He reviews the credit card statements every month, questions anything he doesn't recognize. Access to your phone? He knows all my passwords. Says it's because we're married that we shouldn't have secrets. Sometimes I'll find him scrolling through my messages. He says he's just checking to make sure I'm not talking about him behind his back." I pulled out another folder. This is called coercive control. It's recognized in court now as a form of domestic abuse. Every single thing you just described, the isolation, the financial control, the invasion of privacy, the monitoring, it's all documented here. And we're going to present it as evidence that the physical violence wasn't random. It was the culmination of years of psychological abuse. Rachel stared at the folders, the research, the documentation. "You really think we can beat him with all his family's money and connections?" "I don't think. I know." I met her eyes, because I've done this before. Not with my own daughter, thank God, but I've helped dozens of women navigate this system. I know what works. I know what prosecutors need. I know what judges want to see. I know how to build a case that even the best defense attorney can't dismantle. What if it's not enough? Then we make it enough. We keep fighting. We appeal. We go to the media if we have to. We don't stop until you're safe and Marcus is held accountable. I loaded several boxes into the trunk of my car. The Brennan family might own half this town, but they don't own the justice system. Not completely. And they sure as hell don't own me. Part 3. The system strikes back. By 7 a.m., Marcus was in custody. Margaret called with the news. Patrol picked him up at 6:45. He was still awake, still agitated. Started yelling about false accusations, demanding to know where Rachel was, threatening lawsuits. Officers read him his rights and brought him in. He's being processed now. How did he react when they arrested him? Exactly how you'd expect. Denied everything. Said Rachel was lying, that she's mentally unstable,
that she attacked him first and he was defending himself. Then he invoked his right to an attorney and stopped talking. Smart, unfortunately. Who's his lawyer? Margaret's voice went grim. Thomas Brennan. I felt my stomach drop. His brother? Cousin. But yeah, family. High-powered defense attorney, specializes in making inconvenient evidence disappear and discrediting victims. He represented that pharmaceutical exec who got caught with child pornography last year. Got him off on a technicality. So he's good. He's very good. And he's family, which means he'll be personally invested in destroying Rachel's credibility. She paused. Susan, I need to prepare you. This is going to get ugly. Thomas Brennan doesn't just defend his clients, he goes after their accusers. He'll dig into Rachel's past, look for anything that could be twisted into making her look unstable or vindictive. He'll depose her friends, her coworkers, maybe even her doctors. He'll try to find inconsistencies in her story, suggest she has ulterior motives. Let him try. We have evidence. Evidence he'll claim was staged, injuries he'll say were self-inflicted or accidental, a story he'll paint as a vindictive wife trying to destroy her husband's reputation for money and custody. He can paint whatever picture he wants. Facts are facts. I hope you're right. Bail hearing is set for Monday morning at 9 a.m. Rachel needs to be there. The judge will want to hear from her about why she needs protection. After hanging up with Margaret, I went to check on Rachel. She'd finally fallen asleep on my couch, curled into a tight ball, her face already beginning to show the full spectrum of bruising. Purple, black, yellow, green. The colors of violence painted across her skin. I covered her with a blanket and let her sleep. She needed rest. The battle was just beginning, and she'd need all her strength. My phone rang again. Patricia Chen. I got your email with the photos. Jesus Christ, Susan. These are bad. I know. Good. Not good that they're bad, but good for our case. There's no way anyone can look at these and think she hurt herself. I'm filing the emergency protective order this morning. Judge Morrison has agreed to hear it Monday at 10 a.m., right after Marcus's bail hearing. What are our chances? Excellent. Morrison is tough on domestic violence cases. She won't be impressed by the Brennan name or their lawyers. But Susan, you need to prepare Rachel. Thomas Brennan is going to come after her hard. He'll try to discredit her, paint her as unstable, suggest financial motives. We're ready. I hope so, because this is going to be a war. The Brennans don't lose gracefully. At 8:30 a.m., Rachel woke up. For a moment, she looked confused, didn't recognize where she was. Then reality crashed back, and her face fell. Did I dream it? She asked quietly. No, sweetheart, you didn't dream it. Is he? He's in custody, arrested at 6:45 this morning. He'll stay in jail until the bail hearing Monday morning. Rachel closed her eyes. Relief and despair warred across her features. Lily, I need to check on Lily. She'll wake up and wonder where I am, where Daddy is. I need to... David picked her up an hour ago. I'd called him at 7:30, asked him to coordinate with Children's Services for Lily's pickup. She thinks she's having a special surprise weekend with Uncle David. She doesn't know anything's wrong. Did she see? Rachel went to her swollen face. No, David made sure she didn't. He told her you weren't feeling well, that you were staying with Grandma for a few days, and he was going to have fun adventures with her.
She was excited. You know how she loves Uncle David. Rachel slumped back against the couch cushions. This is really happening. This is really real. Yes. My marriage is over. Yes. My daughter's father is in jail. Yes. And She looked at me and her voice broke. I don't even know who I am anymore. For 4 years, I've been Marcus's wife, Mrs. Marcus Brennan. That's who I've been. I gave up my job when Lily was born because Marcus said we could afford for me to stay home, that it would be better for our daughter. I gave up my friends because he said they were immature. I gave up my independence because he convinced me that's what marriage meant. And now, I said firmly, sitting beside her, you're Rachel Cooper, my daughter, Lily's mother, a woman who survived, a woman who fought back,
a woman who's going to rebuild her life on her own terms. I'm scared. I know, but you're not alone. What if I can't do this? What if I'm not strong enough? You are. You already proved that by coming here last night, by reporting him, by fighting back when it would have been easier to stay silent. I took her hands. Rachel, I've seen hundreds of domestic violence victims during my career. You know what separates the ones who survive from the ones who don't? It's not money or education or family support, though those things help. It's this: the willingness to say enough, the courage to take that first step even when you're terrified. And you've already done that. The hardest part is over. The hardest part is over? Rachel laughed bitterly. Mom, the hardest part is just beginning. The court battles, the custody fights, the character assassination, facing Marcus in courtrooms over and over will be hard. I interrupted. I'm not going to lie to you. This is going to be exhausting and painful, and there will be moments when you want to give up. But you know what else it's going to be? Survivable. Winnable. You're not that scared woman who showed up at my door last night anymore. You're someone who made a choice, who decided her safety and her daughter's well-being mattered more than preserving a broken marriage. That takes strength most people never have to find. My phone buzzed. Text from Margaret. Marcus made bail, posted by his father, Senator Brennan. He's being released, but ordered to stay away from Rachel and your house. Protective order hearing still on for Monday. I showed Rachel the message. Her face went pale. He's out? Already? On bail with conditions. He can't come near you. If he does, he goes straight to jail. You really think a piece of paper will stop him? No, but the threat of jail time might. And if it doesn't, we document every violation and use it against him in court. I stood. Come on. We need to get you somewhere safe where he can't find you. We're here for an emergency protective order petition, she said briskly. Ms. Chen, present your case. Patricia stood, and her voice was clear and strong. Your Honor, my client, Rachel Brennan, is seeking protection from her husband, Marcus Brennan, who physically assaulted her on the night of October 1st. The assault left her with significant injuries: a split lip, black eye, contusions, and abrasions. Rather than call for help, Mr. Brennan threatened her, stating that if she reported the assault, he would ensure she lost custody of their daughter and would be left with nothing. Fearing for her safety, Mrs. Brennan fled to her mother's home and reported the incident to police. Judge Morrison's eyes moved to Rachel. Mrs. Brennan, approach the bench. Rachel stood on shaking legs, walked forward. I watched from the gallery, my heart pounding. Look at me, Judge Morrison said, not unkindly. Tell me what happened. And Rachel told her story again. The affair, the confrontation, the threats, the violence. Her voice wavered, but didn't break. She was getting stronger with each telling, learning to own her narrative. When she finished, Judge Morrison turned to Thomas Brennan. Counselor, your client wishes to respond. Thomas Brennan stood. He was tall, silver-haired, with a voice like honey over gravel. Your Honor, my client categorically denies these allegations. Mrs. Brennan is fabricating this incident as part of a calculated scheme to gain advantage in an inevitable divorce proceeding. The injuries she claims were inflicted by my client were either self-inflicted or the result of her own aggressive behavior, which my client was forced to defend against. Judge Morrison's expression didn't change. You're suggesting Mrs. Brennan gave herself a black eye? I'm suggesting, Your Honor, that there are multiple explanations for her injuries that don't involve my client committing assault. Mrs. Brennan threw a wine glass during the altercation, an act of violence that my client did not reciprocate. When she became hysterical, he attempted to restrain her to prevent further violence. Any injuries sustained were accidental, the result of her own actions. I see. Judge Morrison looked at Rachel. Mrs. Brennan, did you throw a wine glass? Yes, Your Honor. At the wall, not at him. I was upset about. I don't need the whole story again. Just answer. Did the glass hit your husband? No, Your Honor. Did you strike him in any way? No, Your Honor. Judge Morrison turned back to Thomas Brennan. So your client's defense is that he was defending himself from a woman who threw a glass at a wall and then ran away? That's his story? Thomas Brennan had the grace to look uncomfortable. Your Honor, emotions were high. My client used reasonable force that left finger-shaped bruises on her arms, that split her lip and blackened her eye. That's reasonable to you, counselor? In the moment, Your Honor, when faced with an hysterical, violent spouse, she threw one glass at a wall, then fled and locked herself in a bedroom. Your client then broke down the door, grabbed her, threatened her, and struck her. That's not self-defense, that's assault. Judge Morrison's voice could cut glass. The protective order is granted. Mr. Brennan is to stay at least 500 feet from Mrs. Brennan at all times. No contact, direct or indirect. He is prohibited from going to the marital home, from Mrs. Brennan's place of employment, from the child's school. Violations will result in immediate arrest. She paused, looking directly at Marcus. Mr. Brennan, I've been doing this for 23 years. I've heard every excuse, every justification, every defense, and I've learned to recognize the truth when I hear it. Your wife is telling the truth. You hurt her. You threatened her. And now you're going to stay away from her. Is that clear? Marcus's mask slipped for just a moment. Rage flashed across his face before he controlled it. Yes, Your Honor. Good. As for custody of the minor child, Your Honor, Thomas Brennan interrupted. We'd like to request standard visitation.
I'm suggesting, Your Honor, that there are multiple explanations for her injuries that don't involve my client committing assault. Mrs. Brennan threw a wine glass during the altercation, an act of violence that my client did not reciprocate. When she became hysterical, he attempted to restrain her to prevent further violence. Any injuries sustained were accidental, the result of her own actions. I see. Judge Morrison looked at Rachel. Mrs. Brennan, did you throw a wine glass? Yes, Your Honor, at the wall, not at him. I was upset about. I don't need the whole story again. Just answer. Did the glass hit your husband? No, Your Honor. Did you strike him in any way? No, Your Honor. Judge Morrison turned back to Thomas Brennan. So, your client's defense is that he was defending himself from a woman who threw a glass at a wall and then ran away? That's his story. Thomas Brennan had the grace to look uncomfortable. Your Honor, emotions were high. My client used reasonable force that left finger-shaped bruises on her arms, that split her lip and blackened her eye. That's reasonable to you, counselor? In the moment, Your Honor, when faced with an hysterical, violent spouse, she threw one glass at a wall, then fled and locked herself in a bedroom. Your client then broke down the door, grabbed her, threatened her, and struck her. That's not self-defense. That's assault. Judge Morrison's voice could cut glass. The protective order is granted. Mr. Brennan is to stay at least 500 feet from Mrs. Brennan at all times. No contact, direct or indirect. He is prohibited from going to the marital home, from Mrs. Brennan's place of employment, from the child's school. Violations will result in immediate arrest. She paused, looking directly at Marcus. Mr. Brennan, I've been doing this for 23 years. I've heard every excuse, every justification, every defense, and I've learned to recognize the truth when I hear it. Your wife is telling the truth. You hurt her. You threatened her. And now you're going to stay away from her. Is that clear? Marcus's mask slipped for just a moment. Rage flashed across his face before he controlled it. Yes, Your Honor. Good. As for custody of the minor child, Your Honor, we'd like to request standard visitation.
Denied. Based on the severity of the assault and the threats made regarding custody, I'm ordering supervised visitation only until a full custody hearing can be held. Mr. Brennan may see his daughter for 2 hours per week at a court-approved facility with a supervisor present at all times. Mrs. Brennan will have temporary full physical custody. Your Honor, that's excessive. Counselor, your client threatened to take his daughter away from her mother if she reported his violence. That demonstrates he's willing to use the child as a weapon. Until I'm convinced otherwise, his access to that child will be strictly controlled. Judge Morrison's gavel came down. We're adjourned. Custody hearing is set for December 1st. In the hallway outside the courtroom, Patricia was almost smiling. That went better than I expected. Morrison eviscerated him. He looked like he wanted to kill someone, Rachel said quietly. Did you see his face when she ordered supervised visitation? I saw, but he can't do anything about it. He's bound by that order now. If he violates it, he goes straight to jail. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Tell your daughter she's going to regret this. The Brennans don't forget. I showed it to Patricia. Is this enough for a harassment complaint? She photographed the message. Possibly. Save it. Screenshot it. Forward it to Margaret. If we get more, we can add harassment charges. Over the next week, we did get more. Anonymous letters to Rachel's address at Safe Haven, except the address was supposed to be confidential. Someone had leaked it. You destroyed my son's life, you lying bitch, one letter read. Marcus's mother's handwriting. I recognized it from birthday cards she'd sent over the years. Phone calls to Rachel's cell phone from blocked numbers, heavy breathing, hang-ups, once a woman's voice, child-stealing whore. Messages on social media before Rachel deleted all her accounts. Everyone knows you're lying. Gold digger. Bad mother. Hope you're happy destroying a good man's life. The Brennan family had declared war, and they weren't just attacking Rachel. They were attacking me too. A complaint was filed with the city police department claiming I used my connections as a retired officer to fabricate evidence against Marcus. Internal Affairs called me in for an interview. This is ridiculous, I told the investigator, a young detective named Chris Walsh who looked uncomfortable with the whole situation. I documented my daughter's injuries and helped her file a legitimate police report. That's what any parent would do. The complaint alleges you coached her on what to say, that you manufactured evidence to support false allegations. Look at the photographs. Look at the medical records. Look at the timeline. Everything is documented, verifiable, and consistent. There's no coaching, no fabrication, no conspiracy. There's just a woman who was assaulted and a mother who helped her get justice. Walsh sighed. For what it's worth, I believe you, but I have to investigate. It's protocol. I understand. Investigate all you want. You won't find anything because there's nothing to find. The investigation was eventually dropped, but the message was clear. The Brennans would use every resource, every connection, every weapon at their disposal to discredit Rachel and anyone who helped her. But they made one critical mistake. They underestimated how much evidence we'd gathered. Part 5. Discovery. The criminal trial was set for December 8th, giving us 2 months to prepare. During that time, both sides engaged in discovery, the legal process where each side had to share their evidence with the other. Margaret's investigation had been thorough. She'd interviewed neighbors who confirmed hearing shouting from the Brennan house that night. She'd obtained security footage from 3 different homes on their street, showing Rachel's car leaving at 12:43 a.m., driving erratically, consistent with someone fleeing in distress. She'd subpoenaed Marcus's phone records, which showed 247 calls and 1,183 text messages to Jennifer Hawthorne over the past 6 months, including 3 calls on the night of the assault, the last one at 11:59 p.m., just minutes before Marcus attacked Rachel. And she'd found Jennifer. Jennifer Hawthorne, 34 years old, works at Marcus's consulting firm as a senior analyst. And here's the interesting part. She's married too. Husband had no idea about the affair until I showed up to interview her. How did she react? Surprised, then angry. Turns out Marcus told her he was separated from Rachel, that the divorce was almost final, and Rachel was unstable and making things difficult. Classic affair script. Paint the wife as crazy so the mistress doesn't feel guilty. Will she testify?
Oh, she'll testify. Margaret's smile was grim. Her husband kicked her out when he found out about the affair. She lost her marriage because Marcus lied to her. She's furious.
She's cooperative. And she's got text messages where Marcus explicitly discussed handling Rachel, keeping her quiet, making sure she doesn't ruin everything. It's gold for the prosecution. Patricia was building the divorce case simultaneously. She'd subpoenaed financial records showing Marcus had been siphoning money into a separate account Rachel knew nothing about, over $300,000 hidden away. He was planning to leave her, Patricia explained, setting up his escape fund, making sure Rachel would be left with as little as possible when he finally pulled the trigger on the divorce. She'd also found emails between Marcus and his attorney, predating the assault, discussing custody strategies, ways to limit Rachel's parental rights, suggestions for documenting her shortcomings as a mother. He'd been planning this for months, Patricia said. The affair, the financial manipulation, the custody battle. The only thing he didn't plan for was Rachel actually fighting back. He thought he could intimidate her into silence. And when that didn't work, when she reported him and fought for her rights, he panicked.